Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Marketing Dude podcast. What's up, everybody? We got a good show today for you on a topic that I'm absolutely horrible at personally in business, but it's really important to running a business. It's actually the number one reason why I got business partners involved in my business is because I'm really bad at determining and calculating numbers of return on investments. It's a topic that we see quite a bit in the real estate industry space. A lot of times people are like, what is the ROI I get on video and content creation a lot? And that's something that's impossible to really track because it's all about your personal brand. However, there are a lot of things that are trackable, things such as Zillow leads, such as autoresponders, a lot of metrics you can track today. And in many businesses, in every business, it's the most important part of running a business. If you're not turning profit, and so many people I see spend so much money. You guys would be amazed at the amount of teams across the country right now that you would think from the outside are very profitable. They're making a lot of money per month. But when you actually look behind the scenes and their numbers, they're like netting like $2,000 a month and they're risking like $150,000 a month. So I get a call a couple of weeks ago. Our guest comes on, someone reaches out, like, yeah, talk to this dude. He's built out a brokerage. We speak before we get on the show here, and he's like a numbers guy. So I think what we're going to get today, guys, if you're looking for ROI numbers, how do you calculate these figures? How do you run your damn business like a business? This is a show for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our guest, Dan Rochon, to the show. Rochon? How do you want us to pronounce it, buddy?
Whatever. Rochi is what they called me in high school.
Roach? I like Roach. We could go with Rochi too. I like that.
Rock on, Rochi. I say Rochon, but I'll whatever you got for me.
Rochon. All right, we're gonna roll with that. Dan, go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself, and let's get rolling.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for inviting me today. And I completely agree with you in regards to the business aspect of real estate sales that so few agents actually, even contemplate. But a little bit about myself. I've been selling real estate since 2007. And so I got into this market at a tough time. Apparently it was a tough time. And I, first 6 months or so, I really struggled. And before I was a waiter in a really high-end restaurant in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't see the way. And then I found this real estate sales thing and I saw it as a business opportunity. And like I said, I struggled the first 6 months. Talked to my broker. She's encouraged me, go. And I'm like, look, Karen, I'm about to pay my mortgage on my credit card. Seriously, Like this isn't cool, right? Yeah. And so she encouraged me. And then about a year after that conversation, I was able to buy the brokerage that I worked for. And I owned that for 10 years and I sold it a year and a half ago. And then the last 13 months, I've been writing a book, just finished writing that. That's for real estate agents. And so, that's a little bit of a brief bio of me. That's where I've been. And today thanks. Today I just help out, buyers and sellers.
So how many guys out there listening are like, hey, well, I'd like to someday actually own this office instead of work for someone. This dude did it in 12 months. What is the key to making that happen? What did you realize first? Because you're right. The first 6 months of every agent's business, most people fail. There are two reasons I see. They're taught the wrong things or they're surrounded by the wrong people. What did you do? What did you find out?
Yeah. So 87% of agents, as we know, are going to fail. And either we add on there the wrong mindset or the wrong expectations as well in regards to why they would fail. And I think so many people get involved in our business that really, truly don't treat it like a business. Mm-hmm. And understanding that, if you're looking at a business, there's going to be a foundation and then you build on top of that. So the foundation of any business is going to be lead generation. And then on top of the lead generation, it's going to be organization building. And then on top of organization building, it's going to be leadership. The biggest challenge that even really good salespeople have in running a business is that they can be really good at the lead generation piece and they can be really good at the leadership piece and really suck at the organization building piece, which is, quite frankly, that's been, my challenge. And I've learned through the years on how to become better at that, but it's just understanding. Well, first, I think you just have to understand where you want to go, because if you don't have a clear vision, a clear picture of where you want to go, you're going to get wherever you go, so that was, I think, the basis of the start of it.
It is. A lot of people come in, you probably know this as a broker owner. But yeah.
And I sold my brokerage, by the way. So, yeah.
A lot of agents think they're working a job, and it's not true. You got to approach it as a business. So with any business, comes down to the numbers. So let's get into that.
Sure.
Talk to me about the numbers. And you guys today, you basically essentially help agents determine positive ROIs in their business based upon expenses in, expenses out, right? So we're just doing common sense numbers. I suck at this. Okay. I hate this because I hate numbers. I'm way too high D. I'm like, I'm already fucking onto the next, like I'm already way down the block. Right. So
Yeah.
where do you start with this and what do you do? Like walk me through, typically why people fall, because we overspend. Let's be honest. A lot of us have wishful marketing.
Yeah, it's, I'm going to talk at like a, like a high level just to, I'm not going to get deep in the weeds, right? But
Sure.
just from a perspective, there's a couple basic things as a real estate agent you should do. Number one, set up a business account. Number two, pay yourself a salary. And number three would be hire a bookkeeper, right? Like those are the basics of a real estate agent before we even get, deep in the weeds in regards to, how to spend the money, how to track it, that type of thing. But then, you do want to make sure that you're planning your business, right? And so we take, so you've got a couple, you can, take a shot in the dark at that. You can look at models and say, okay, well, here's the models of people that have gone before me. And then what have they spent? What do their businesses look like? And you're completely right, Mike. I mean, there's so many people that are making millions of dollars gross, $2,000 a month net, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a stupid business model, right? Because the
It's
risk
risky.
that you take,
It's huge.
I mean, it's just like, I want to make millions of dollars and, we're on our way for that, but I want to net. It's more about what you net. Your profit is really ultimately what matters. So you first, you got to plan for it. You have to say, okay, here's where I want to go. Then you have to, model it, right? And so for us, I'll give you an example. So like, let's talk like at marketing, for example. All right. So if you're going to do marketing and let's say you do a transaction, what's your average commission in Chicago? I don't know what it is.
In Chicago, when I was still there, well, it depended. The older I got, the more money my friends made. So my commission, by the time I left, it was more like 500 to 600,000. I would say it was my average time.
And you're in California now, is that right?
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. So I figured Chicago would be all right. So let's say 10,000 is your commission.
Yeah.
And if that's, all right, just to, make it easy math. And so and for some people across the country, it's 5,000, right? But whatever it is, take 10% of that, put it into a bank account. Call that your marketing bank account. Now, here's the mistake that I see a lot of agents make. They take that marketing bank account and then they will, they'll put $1,000 in there and then they'll spend that over 2 or 3 months and then they'll say it doesn't work. Well, what you have to understand is that marketing is an 18-month process to be able to optimize it, right? You'll get a return, around 6 months in, sometimes a little bit sooner than that, depending on how you're spending your money, but you're not going to really optimize the marketing dollar until you're 18 months in. So if, for example, you want to spend $100 on marketing a month, then you would want to sell 18,000 in gross commissions, put 1,800 into an account, and then you only spend $100 a month, no more than that. Right. So that tells you how much money that you can spend. So it's like really simple math that a lot of agents really struggle with,
Dude,
so
I'm going to do that with my own business. So 10%, do you see that across the board? Are you talking specifically in real estate?
No, it's going to be different for what business that you're in.
Okay.
That's the thing with that, depending on what your business is. There's going to be metrics and models, so we just did this thing on ClickFunnels and I was talking to my business partner and he's a master at the ClickFunnels. And when I started going through there, he kept telling me, he's like, Dan, the long-term investment, right? Like what's the return on the long-term investment? But nobody could tell me what the models were. Nobody could tell me if you spend $1 in, you get $1.10 in return.
Yep.
And I asked that question of, I don't know how many smart people, this isn't real estate sales, this is different. This is, online marketing sales. And I asked that question of so many very, very smart people and nobody could give me an answer to it.
Dude, I don't know the answer to mine. You would think I'm bad at metrics. I'm horrible at metrics. You'd think because I'm a marketing, I'm an attention whore. Like I'm good at creating attention and buzz. I've always attracted business. I guarantee I would have triple the amount of sales if I follow your advice. Just because, and I'm actually in the process personally of doing this in my own business, but you're right.
Sure.
And on Shark Tank, it's the same thing. Well, most of them do know, because you see Mark Cuban on Shark Tank be like, all right, what's your customer acquisition cost, which is what we're talking about here.
Yep.
And a lot of people are like, it's a good question. How do you spend money without knowing how much it's going to cost you to actually create positive revenue off of that money being spent, is what we're talking about, folks. So have to look at your business like that. Zillow is a really good example of this, like, because you know how much you're spending every month, or any set monthly fee when you're buying leads or buying business. But I see a lot of people don't know their numbers.
But even with Zillow, though, if you take that from, you know what you're spending this month, right? But how many agents are going to sit there and say, because what we know that online, Zillow's going to actually be higher than this, right? But just an online internet lead, not Zillow, you're looking at a 1 out of 100 that you're going to close in 90 days.
Yep.
But here's the piece that agents miss. You're looking at a 3 to 5 out of 18 months that you can close.
True.
Right? Right. So instead of sitting there and putting systems in place to follow up with that other 2 to 4, what an agent does is they just let them fall through the cracks. They get into somebody else's system, and then they just keep spending the money to get the 1 out of 100. Right. So when you look at it like that, your acquisition cost is huge.
Correct.
Right. You could take your acquisition cost if you put the proper systems in place and follow up with them through time, and be able to cut it by 75%.
Folks, there's in marketing world, you always hear this term sort of get thrown out there, and they say it in some way, shape, or form. Forgive me if I butcher it, but they say the company that can afford to pay the most for the customer is the one who wins in the long run. And it makes a lot of sense, because once you have them, and it's retention. Walk me through lead, when you say marketing and lead generation, or putting 10% back into your models. What kind of systems were you guys doing it? Were you putting it into your database? Were you doing client events? Like, tell me more on that end, just so we see what your definition of marketing is.
I got 3 main pillars of business. All right. So 1 is my sphere of influence, 2 is my larger database, and 3 is internet leads. Okay. So when we look at the larger database, I've got 12,000 people in that larger database, and we've got about 650 people in my sphere of influence database. So we allocate a certain amount of money to spend to that. And then in addition to that, I've got 5 inside sales agents, and we pay them from the marketing budget. Now, to be able to make that work, our inside sales agents are in the Philippines, where it would cost me for 5 inside sales agents in the Philippines, where they're making a really, really great wage. It would cost me less than about a half of an inside sales agent sitting side by side me in my office, right? So that's a way to be able to manage your expenses smartly. Now, to be able to lead 5 people virtually, you actually have to lead. What you can't do is just sit there and say, hey, look, go call these people and you're going to rock and roll. That ain't going to work. You have to teach them what to do. You have to have them on the video. Like my people right now, they're on the video, and if I wasn't on this video, I could be on with them, watching them work and working with them side by side with them, right?
So the way that live?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. It's always on there, right? So on Google Hangouts, and like I'll jump in. I don't lead generate every single day, just because I've got a lot of different, priorities. Because for me, it's about focusing on like your most important activity. And at first and always it's lead generation, right? But then as you start building a business, it starts becoming more leadership, more training, more leading, more motivating, right? And so for me, it's more useful for me to spend my time recruiting and selecting an agent to come work with us than it is me going to find a listing, because that listing is going to pay me $10,000, and I'm really grateful for that. That agent, we're going to earn together a couple $100,000 a year, right? And there's going to be profit coming into the company from that couple $100,000, and that is much more profitable. And it takes me just as much effort to find either one, right? So that's the way that the systems work.
So, but here's one thing, I don't know if you guys got this, but he, out of the 10%, he's saying whatever the amount is, okay, let's say 10, 20, 10%, whatever. He's segmented the different sources of business and allocate accordingly. So like, and I don't see anybody do that. Realtors, either when they think of marketing, they'll put it all in Zillow on a bunch of strangers they don't know, but then they totally neglect their referral sources and their SOI, and they don't spend any money on that audience. And that's why, clients cheat on their agents all the time. right? Is because they forget who the fuck you are. You stop talking to them, guys. Like 80% of buyers forget their agent's name in 6 months. You don't make a referral-based business. And I love you say that because I'm all database. I'm all a database guy. But what is your difference between your SOI database and your database?
So the database, we market to them once a week with a video. So we do a Q&A video, and we segment that into real estate agents and then everybody else. So the real estate agents would be something like this video that we're doing right now, that would go out to the real estate agents. Everybody else, it's going to be, like, okay, let me talk to you about what's actually shifted in the market over the last 6 weeks because of the quarantine, right? Like, here's how the market's different today than it was before, whatever the case may be. It's going to be something that's going to be acute. The normal questions that people will ask me on a day-to-day basis would be what we do. So that goes out to that database once a week. We call the larger database once a quarter, though we're not quite getting there yet because I need to hire 2 more inside sales agents to be able to get there, to be able to be calling them 4 times a year. And then in that large database, there's 1 of 3 people. They're either the sphere of influence, they're the agents, or they contacted us to buy or sell in the past. So if somebody contacted us to buy or sell in the past, we're going to solicit them to get in action today. If it's a sphere of influence, we're going to invite them to the next client appreciation event. We do 4 of those a year. If it's an agent, we're going to invite them to a webinar that we teach every single Thursday afternoon. And so that's the way that we treat the big database. The smaller sphere of influence past client database, we do all that, plus we do the client appreciation events, and then plus I will personally call them 4 times a year as well. Plus we touch them on Facebook, that type of thing.
Love it. But you have systems, and each one of these messaging or content, or they cost time and they cost money because now you're employing people to leverage your time, right? This is great. I love it. All right, so we went to the 10% route. What else on the income? There's other 90%.
Yeah. All right, so 10% is going to go to marketing. About 14% is going to go to staff salaries. And so the way that we actually have it broken up is some of our staff is actually allocated through our marketing budget. So the inside sales agents, even though it's staff, we're paying them from that 10%. So then that leaves us with the client care, the runner, the director of operations, and the staff that keeps us, running and doing all the paperwork and making sure that I'm calling who I'm supposed to be calling, right? Because I'm like going, a million miles an hour, a minute probably. And so they got to be like, Dan, call this person. Dan, call this person, right? And so that staff right there is about 14% of the budget. And then just other stuff is about another 5%, 5 to 6%. And then the agents, right now I have 2 agents on my team, and we have a staff of 14, believe it or not. And so the agents take up about 33%, which leaves us with about a 38% profit.
Got it.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
So let me walk these numbers through for individual agents who may be listening now, or individual lender per se. All right, guys, let's break down the 100%. So basically tell me if I'm following this correctly.
Yeah.
10% is going to go through marketing. You're going to divide that up amongst different things. Okay, that's number 1. Would you agree that's probably the most important expense?
Yeah, if I'm going to go high on any number, it's going to be the marketing, and I'm going to take it from someplace else. And now historically, I've gone high on staff. Now I fixed that by going virtual, because the 14 people that work for me, 11 of them are in the Philippines.
So, folks, I want you guys, because I already know what they're going to be saying. They're like, well, I don't have anyone that works for me. Well, he's saying that 14% could be used to like hire that VA. Yeah. You could use that in any which way, shape, or form, and you're really leveraging time and all of that at that point. So you got to look at that from a business owner. For example, I'll throw my own shameless plug in here. It's my show. I could do that, right? You could hire a freaking real estate marketing dude, and we could do all your damn video content creation for you, bro. And we'll market your database. That's a good investment. But
buy two today.
Yeah. And it makes sense, because if you even look at like a restaurant business model, like the margins, it makes sense. Most businesses tend to work off of like an under 40% net margin. Even the restaurant space, like what, 10 to 20%, even lower than that.
Oh God, lower than that for restaurants.
Yeah. So,
restaurants are like 5%.
But you're running it as a business though, and you're treating every aspect based upon the duties you need to perform, the actions you need to take, and associating a cost to that. That's what I like about this. You have a cost associated with everything that goes on in your business, so you can measure it and do an ROI.
Yeah, Mike. So you're right. So a lot of agents are watching this right now and they're like, okay, that's like here and I'm here. So if that's you watching this right now, then look at it like this. Just look at that as not necessarily the end point, right? Because I'm still growing, right? We're still going. But look at that as maybe a future point. Mm-hmm. And then where you are right now, because when I started, it was 1. So it was 100% to me, right? And I paid my broker some money as well, right? But then as it evolved, I realized to say, okay, well, I have to take some of these tasks and I have to get them off my shoulders, right? Because I'm not getting paid enough money to go out and hang signs or lock boxes, right? And so then, I would hire somebody at a lower wage that would allow for me to do the dollar productive things. So if you're concerned about hiring somebody, you only have to invest 3 months. Because the reality of it is, because a lot of people, and particularly if you go virtual, right? So think about it this way. You can get a virtual assistant in the Philippines, like an entry level for about $500 a month. Okay. So that's $1,500 that you would be risking on one virtual assistant, because if after 3 months, if they haven't given you a return, then they're not the right fit for you, or you're not the right leader for them. Right. So either you're not doing the right thing or they're not doing the right thing. But either way, after 3 months, if you're not getting a multiple of the return, you shouldn't continue being in business with them.
Well, let me ask you this question as an agent, because I know a lot of agents would be like, well, I'm not going to spend, and this is all mindset, you guys. This is what I think Dan was referencing when he said the most important is mindset, because this is what every agent say. I'm not going to spend $25 to have someone put up a lockbox. You guys, if you don't think your hourly wage is worth more than $25 an hour, you might as well go get a damn job at Subway and become a sandwich artist, because that's what you're making. You got to value your time. So how does someone overcome that? Because that's how a lot of people think. I'm not going to outsource that. They don't realize that what they could be spending that hour of time could actually be a money-making, income-producing activity is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, you get 2 sides of that also. So you get the other side of that where you get really productive agents. And when I used to own a brokerage, I would talk to them all the time, and they would be tapped out around, in my market, around 36 to 40 transactions a year.
Makes sense.
Okay. But they were working 18 hours a day. They were working 365 days a year, right? And they were just working nonstop, and so because they wouldn't leverage, and those are people that really want that control. It's all right. We can bring them on. We can bring on more guests. It's cool.
It's for my podcast editor. Hey folks, we're live on quarantine. So if you hear that little kid in the background, that's real life.
And you know what? There's some pans clanking right when you say real life. That's
and
awesome.
Then that was my wife clocking the pans in the background in the middle of our podcast too.
That's cool.
Keep carrying on. I'm listening.
Where was I, man? I got distracted.
You were talking about the agents and them being not valuing the time.
Right. So you get, you could get 2 sides of that. You get those agents that think they're really, really doing well, but they're not. What kind of life is that, right? Because they don't take the time to sit there and say, well, let me leverage some of this stuff off, right? I don't have to be that control. I'll call it control freak, right? I'll call it, right?
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is that agent that's riding that roller coaster. Right. And so they're lead generating. They'll do 1 or 2 transactions every 3 months and be like, woo, yeah, awesome. Right. But then, oh, crap, I forgot I wasn't lead generating during that time that I was, servicing those clients. So what if you could, instead of spending that time servicing those clients and doing the CMAs, doing the market analysis, filling out the paperwork, getting your buyer contracts ready, getting your listing contracts ready, what if instead of taking your time doing that, you could spend your time continuing to find more business, right? Because when you can get a relationship with that concept, and you can feel good about that concept, then you'll get off that roller coaster.
Makes
right?
sense.
So that's really the way that I think the agents have to think about this.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It starts with mindset, you guys, because you can only make that decision with the right one, and then it's really just based upon a decision you make at the end of the day. That's it.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if you're concerned about money, partner with an agent in your office and hire one virtual assistant, right? Because if you can't afford $250 a month for somebody to help you 20 hours a week, then, then there's another conversation that you might be having with yourself.
Yep.
Right? Because that's a pretty low investment if you really understand that this is a business.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. I think you really took everything and sort of simplified it for us. Any closing thoughts that you have, and then we'll go ahead and open the floor so you can let people know how to reach you.
Yeah. So really, I think the biggest thing, Mike, is, like I said, treat your business like a business. Have a clarity on what your goals are. Understand, why you're doing what you want to do. And if, they say if your why is big enough, your how will show up. But here's the deal. That's true. Mm-hmm. Because for the last couple of years, my why was to build my mom, who's just turned 73 years old, a house on my property. And quite frankly, when I had that vision 5 years ago, I didn't see the pathway. Okay. And because I understood that here's a woman that birthed me, right, took care of me for my first couple decades. Well, I want to, it's like I want to pay her back now. I want to take care of her. And so when I first had that idea, probably about 5 years ago, I had no idea how I'm going to afford a second home to be able to build my mom that house. And I was able to do it, right? Because that was my why. That's why I did business. That's why I woke up every single morning, right? Today, my why is different because I've knocked that one out. And so it's just understanding why, and your why doesn't have to be that big either. It could be just simply to be a good dad, a good husband, to provide for your family. It could be a good wife, a good spouse, a good person, whatever it is that, to have significance, whatever it is that's important to you, just have a clarity on why you're doing what you're doing. And once you have that clarity, then take action, right? And, that's just, that would be my advice to you.
Awesome. Good advice, dude. Great show. Dan, why don't you go ahead and let our listeners know how to follow you, how to visit your site, check out some of your stuff, and then we'll get this wrapped up.
Cool. So you can always find me online. I'm pretty easy to find on the social medias. Dan Rochon, or as Mike says, I don't know, Rochon. Was that what we said?
He's called it Dan Roach. We did Rochon, Rochon, a little bit of all.
Rochon. So you can find me online, Dan Rochon. I just wrote a book, Real Estate Evolution. This is the 10-step guide to C.P.I, consistent and predictable income for real estate agents. You can find this on Amazon, on Audible, or on www.therealestateevolution.com. And I talk about 10 steps in the book to show you how you can have consistent, predictable income and get off that roller coaster.
Cool. Get that book, guys. Run your business. Quit being ran by it. If you aren't approaching your business as a business, you're just another salesperson chasing a bunch of leads. And that's, if you want to work that job, that's great. But if you want to have a career, take this man's advice. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Marketing Dude podcast. Folks, you know how to find us. It's very simple. Go ahead and leave us a review. Follow us on social, YouTube channel, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, The Real Estate Marketing Dude. And you know how, if you don't know what we do, video content creation done for you. I'll build your brand. I'll tell you exactly what to say, and we'll script, edit, and distribute your content for you. And if you don't want us to do that and your videographer is stuck because they don't know what the hell to create either, well, then I'll give you over all of our scripts as well, and we'll train them on how to do their damn job too. So it doesn't matter. Either way, we're going to help you get video content creation done for you in any way, shape, or form. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Marketing Dude podcast. We appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for next week's episode. See you guys then. Bye-bye.